I also, Pierre Poilievre, again, is being a jack with his whole weaponization of the gender debate. He said he only recognizes two genders. I've only ever seen him really recognize one or spend most of his time on one gender, so at least that's a step up. But again, he has to be stopping on gender issues. It's just stupid and it's not mature.
I have finally realized just how Justin Trudeau was able to blow through our country's economy so easily, so skillfully, and with so much manipulation. He has a gambling addiction. Duh. I'm going to get into more details on that news, as well as some stuff that Donald Trump has said. The saga continues. And in a little bit of a different perspective, I take back my original comments saying that the Trudeau government was so selfish and cruel for, proroguing Parliament and calling this liberal leadership race. Because the longer that this all goes on, the more satisfied I feel, because it has just been incredibly eye-opening and insightful to watch the sinking ship throw everybody off board, hoping that they could cling to the one last door that was floating, if you catch my drift. They're eating themselves alive and self-imploding, and boy, oh boy, it's both shocking, sad, and deeply enjoyable to watch. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Subscribe, like, comment your thoughts down below, and also give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. We're going to kick this off with what I am now dubbing, and also kind of stole from the US, Poilievre derangement syndrome, which oftentimes looks like this.
Sur le gain en capital, pourquoi vous faites marche arrière sur le gain en capital? Attendez, sur le gain en capital, pourquoi vous faites marche arrière?
C'est difficile d'entendre parce que tout le monde crie.
And while we should make hats or something, you got to make that go viral. There's a lot of people suffering from PDS in Canada. There really, really is. In all seriousness, though, that clip of Chrystia Freeland has gone viral. I don't particularly enjoy reporting on that stuff or poking fun at it, even though I just did that, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite, solely because I do have a lot of experience and a very great passion as well for advocating for and working with people who are on the spectrum. I have that in my family. I also have Tourette's in my family. And there's a lot of things that she has done in ways that, we may judge her as like, whoa, she must be on DRUGs or something. But to me, a lot of it signals you're neurodivergent, or you have something, there's some sort of a nervous tic going on, or you're really overwhelmed with the situation at hand. And I don't personally believe that if you do have a diagnosis where you're somewhere on the spectrum, or perhaps there's like some extreme anxiety or something, I don't really care who you are. This standard applies to all. I don't think that means that just because you might, have a self-soothing method where you're doing this with your hands while you're really overwhelmed as everybody's screaming at you and trying to ask you questions, I don't think that means that you're completely ineligible to have a position such as the one that she had. Now, mind you, the position that she did have and the way that she did it was quite deplorable, and we can certainly judge her all day on that. But I have had a lot of people send me that video saying, you should talk about this. Nobody's talking about this. So I'm just going to blanketly say I don't like talking about that. A lot of her facial expressions, a lot of her what appear to be nervous tics, to me, it seems like there is something more underlying there in terms of a diagnosis that perhaps she doesn't have or hasn't shared with us. So that is my unpopular opinion amongst the conservative sphere who love to rip on her for that. But here's somebody else that has PDS that is just so out to lunch, so out of touch, so deranged.
I'm getting calls from people right across the country who are joining the party, sometimes for the first time, or rejoining because they're excited about it, about me running. So
you're getting calls, Karina Gould, from people who are so excited about you that they're rejoining or joining the party for the first time. Yeah, that didn't happen. I mean, how are they calling you exactly? You don't even have the comments turned on any of your social media posts. How is anybody getting a hold of you? Oh, that's right. They're not. Nobody has said that. Like, maybe some of her friends' parents have said that. That's about it. What an insane thing to say that just never happened. And also, it's like so prideful. What a disgusting, egotistical, prideful way to go about announcing your candidacy. Yeah, everybody loves me so much. I can't help that I'm so popular. Everybody's so excited. Like, that is so prideful and immediately puts up red flags.
I've listened to you on 2 occasions since you initially announced your candidacy say that Canadians have lost trust
in the Liberal Party. What responsibility do you bear for that, given that you've been a member of cabinet since 2017?
Yeah, it's a really fair question. And honestly, it's something that I've been trying to push within the party and within caucus to say that we have to listen to Canadians. And look, I was a cabinet minister, and we have something called cabinet solidarity. So the conversations that happen in that room stay in that room. But I've since resigned from cabinet to run in the race. And that's, one of the things that I know is that the reason why people are turning away from us is because they don't feel like we understand the issues that they're living on a day-to-day basis. And I think that, we have to listen to Canadians when it comes to questions like affordability. They're saying that things are too expensive for them right now, and we need to do a better job of responding to that.
You have all of your comments turned off. What do you mean you're listening to us? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand how people are when they're having thumb wars, is what I call it, when you're like fighting or like writing something mean on your phone or computer, whatever, or you're vitriolic keyboard warriors. However, Karina Gould, you are paid by the taxpayers. You serve the people. You have your comments turned off everywhere. Actually, that does not show signs of listening. That actually sounds very authoritarian or dictatorial, especially when you are asking people to trust you, begging them to vote for you. So as the public, what do I take from that move alone? It's that, well, you're going to be the type of leader exactly like Justin Trudeau, where you're going to tell us what to do. You're going to tell us what we want, which you have actually done several times in the House. And then you're going to block us from any input and block us from even having a voice because you don't want to hear it. That's what that tells me. So that's kind of what dictators do. And for that reason, I'm out. Big shout out to my girl Vashi Capellos, by the way, for really calling out the Trudeau government's silencing techniques and gaslighting techniques that they've employed that has completely disrupted the brains of so many people in this country. I don't know if half of them are ever going to bounce back.
Why did you keep insisting in your cabinet colleagues that that wasn't the case? Like I've done countless interviews with all of you, and every time I asked a question like that, I was told I was wrong, basically. And it's not as though you're just on the sidelines of that. You were tasked by the Prime Minister and others to be one of the leads on communication around a lot of this stuff that Canadians were continually telling you was negatively impacting affordability. What made you see the light?
Well, I think I've seen it for a while, to be honest, Vashi.
And you just couldn't say it? Is that what the argument is?
Part of my job as the House Leader was to defend the government's position. But I, made very strong comments, within the spaces that I was acting. But I'm here to say to Canadians that we didn't get everything right.
And I'm sure all of the things that she has been criticizing Trudeau's government of and admitting lately is going to be something she may or may not regret. Because this came out of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office just hours ago. He's changed some things in his ministry. What has he done? Well, Stephen McKinnon has now replaced Karina Gould as the leader of the government in the House of Commons, which is a role that Gould had since 2023. News that now makes this clip from Mark Miller that much funnier.
Obviously, my heart goes out to the gay community and the trans community in the U.S. right now. They're going through a difficult time. As I'd mentioned, it's a stretch to create a whole new category of people that would be considered asylum seekers or refugees, and that's just reality. Whatever Jagmeet Singh is going on in his head, it's up to him really to think about. I also, Pierre Poilievre, again, is being a jackass with his whole weaponization of the gender debate. He said he only recognizes two genders. I've only ever seen him really recognize one or spend most of his time on one gender, so at least that's a step up. But again, he has to be stopping a jackass on gender issues. It's just stupid and it's not mature.
Does anybody else just think it is so ironic how the man who ran in 2015 with all of these women saying the reason why he picked all of them was, it's because it's 2015, has gotten rid of almost every single one of them? Like one by one, he has removed all of the women in his cabinet to replace them with men. But he's a feminist, so it's fine, guys. This is what feminism is, okay? Yeah, it is. Feminism is about invoking people's emotional response to make you think you're a good guy, only to show your true colors down the road. Feminism is about stomping on the throats of just about anybody who calls you out. Not the men, because you're intimidated by them, but the women, because you know that you have control and power over them.
I remember doing multiple interviews with you in which you told me that politicians who cave into pressure on the carbon tax don't care about climate change. How can you now be one of them?
I'm forced to recognize that largely due to Pierre Poilievre's campaign to frankly lie and misguide Canadians, it has become very unpopular. It's not supported by the NDP. Even some environmental organizations are telling me, listen, Minister, it's too unpopular. And we have other tools. Well, I mean, we obviously have the industrial component of carbon pricing.
And I guess, though, it's confusing to me because I remember putting that exact point to you again on multiple occasions. I'll read you exactly what you told me 9 months ago. If there's a measure somewhere that someone can find and point to me that will help us achieve 10% of 2030 targets at no extra cost to consumers lying around under a rock somewhere, someone needs to show it to me because I haven't seen it. Have you seen it now?
I mean, I basically have two choices here. I can stay in the party and continue help fighting to protect the environment, fighting climate change, or go pick my bags and go home.
Do you remember that song? I wish I could remember who it's by, but it's like dollar, dollar bills, yeah. That is the Liberal Party right now. Like, they are just so okay with admitting that they don't actually really care about any of this stuff. They're just going with whatever the money's telling them to do, right? They're following the money. Oh, I can smell that over there. And they're jumping ship left, right, and center because I don't actually know that they have any real values or principles, which is a very, very big difference, something you can differentiate between the Conservative Party and the NDP Liberals. Is there one party has consistent values that have really not ever changed, and the other party just kind of does whatever's popular at the time, right? At your expense, of course. So as we know, Stephen Guilbeault is officially endorsing Mark Carney. Both of them, I assume, are in bed with Satan, and that is why they're super cool with that. So we can rest assured that Mark Carney, who is really a big fan of the carbon tax, he wants Canada to have an even higher one. He may be saying some things, using some creative language to get out of that right now, but obviously him and Guilbeault are in some sort of a deal with the devil because Guilbeault has said that he fully endorses Carney. He has also said that he knows what Carney's game plan is in terms of environmental policies in the country and that he supports them and he thinks everything is going to be good. So if you think that that fact alone, really, Carney was stupid to ask for Stephen Guilbeault's approval, like actually genuinely really stupid because Guilbeault is loathed. Just goes to show how out of touch Mark Carney is. Because, you know, he obviously doesn't listen or care about what anybody else is saying about this guy when he asked for his endorsement, which he got, obviously.
Make no mistake, this guy is just as, if not more, radical than Justin Trudeau. And today we got the proof. You'll never guess who's announced he's supporting Carney. The most crazy, self-described socialist in the government, Stephen Guilbeault, the crazy carbon tax minister. This is a guy who has been arrested twice, once for climbing on the roof of the Premier of Alberta to protest against the energy sector. The second time for climbing the CN Tower. He wants to ban road building, nuclear power, wants to shut down the forestry sector because he says that's the only way to save the caribou.
And remember, all of these people, these grifters who spent the last couple of years now telling you that you're wrong, and you're actually making money off of the carbon tax. Oh, it's the best thing ever. This is a really good plan that hasn't reduced our emissions at all, actually. The only time our emissions were reduced was back in pandemic era when everybody was in lockdown. They did reduce significantly globally at that period of time, and then they bounced right back up to exactly where they were prior to that. Not to mention the fact that Canada emits less than 2% globally, so it doesn't really make a difference anyway. But nonetheless, their companies have all made significant amounts of money in all of this. We know that as a fact. You know, the public budget officer said so, and we had the whole green slush fund situation, of which No documents have been handed over unredacted. The PBO said that there was approximately 86%, if I'm not mistaken, of conflicts of interest within that, and then they refused to reveal any more details, which has led us into the situation that we've been in now. The only thing that has really decreased since all of this green nonsense that our government has been primarily investing in far more than anything else for his people, like, clean drinking water, which I remember him running on about 9 years ago anyway, has been our mental health. Really, that's probably at our quality of living, our standard of living, because the federal government has been far more inclined to cut all investment in the country, make it as difficult and impossible as possible for our economy to thrive, for investment to be attractive in our nation, all due to these eco factors and regulations and permits and costs. It's just absolute insanity. That's something we talked about at length in yesterday's video towards the latter half of it. And here's another thing that's fun. Justin Trudeau, on top of, investing in the climate, he also loves to invest in his gambling addiction. Since 2020, a total of $52.5 billion has gone into the electric vehicle sector. There's been 13 different deals with Canada and manufacturers to try to get Canada more involved in the electric vehicle supply chain. And this part really just goes to show how absolutely horrific the Trudeau government is at making deals or doing business of any kind. Like, you can tell that they were all absolutely spoon-fed because they have no idea how the world works or what a good or bad investment or decision is. So to try to entice manufacturers to have their operations based in Canada, the government thought it was a good idea to subsidize portions of their investment, that coming out of the federal budgets, the provincial budgets, and they told the provinces that it was going to be about 5 years until they broke even. 5 years still seems kind of risky. It's a long time, but 5 years, okay, we can bounce back from that eventually. However, the parliamentary budget officer has actually determined that it will take about 20 years for the federal government and provincial government to break even on the subsidies to the tune of $52.5 billion that were given to these companies. 20 years, guys. Are you kidding me? And the thing about this that's so insane too is you couldn't have just offered like a tax cut or something to them you wanted to give them money to build their plant. No tax cut, though, because like a tax cut for them to entice them here at least wouldn't have come out of my pocket, and ideally then once they started operating, they'd be adding to our economy and that would really work out. No, instead of a tax cut like the US is doing and has been doing for a long time, they said that they were just going to give away free money to these companies, many of which have since closed, as we know. And so where is that $52.5 billion? It seems kind of crazy. Like, if you paid billions of dollars to different companies, executives, whatever, that they would be able to just pull out of your country and that money's just gone. Unfortunately, that is what happened. Yeah, that money's actually gone. $52.5 billion. Is just gone. That's what your money was gambled on. And we have nothing to show for it. So a tax cut would have made a lot more sense. Definitely would have.
We've just allowed that, bad management has allowed it over the last 4 years in particular to become very imbalanced. And I call him Governor Trudeau, but he's Prime Minister Trudeau when he was Prime Minister. I asked him, why would we do that? Why? And he was unable to give me an answer. He said, I don't know. And I said, do you think it's fair that we're paying $200 billion to keep Canada going? And what would happen, I asked him, what would happen if we didn't do that, if we didn't subsidize Canada? He said, we'd be a failed nation. And I said, then you should be a state. Because why are we paying all of that money to Canada when, we could use it ourselves, right? So
this is Over Opinionated. I'm Jasmine Lane. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Give me a follow on other social media platforms and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I will talk to you very, very soon.